This is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It is one of DJI's best cameras. However, it does not have removable batteries, but it does have an external battery grip that you can either get with it with the combo kit or you can buy it separately. This is the DJI external battery grip that you can get from DJI for the Pocket 3. This will cost you $100 Canadian, and it has 950 milliamp hours of battery capacity. It also has the ability to do fast charging. However, this is the Maectech battery. This is a third-party battery that you can get for the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This has 2,800 milliamp hours of battery capacity. But is this battery any good for the Pocket 3? Is buying a third-party battery a mistake, or should you stick with the original? And what is the difference between a third-party battery as far as performance, safety, and features than the original battery for the Pocket 3? If you'd like to learn more about this battery and if I would recommend this particular third-party battery, well, keep watching because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So today we're talking about the Maectech 2800 milliamp hour battery that you can get for the Pocket 3. And there is one big difference between this battery and the original Pocket battery. And that might be a deal breaker for some people, but for other people it might even be a non-issue. And we're going to talk about that a little later on in the video. But first, I want to test this battery. I've actually been testing this battery to make sure that it meets all the safety requirements for the Pocket 3. So before I go any further, Maectech did send me out this battery for the purpose of review. However, this is not a sponsored video. I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I can say what I want. And also, I don't even have any paid affiliate links. So if you buy this battery, I don't get a commission. I don't want a commission. So I never ask members for membership fees or Patreon or to buy me a coffee. I do not believe in harassing my subscribers for extra money. And that is the difference between my channel and some other channels. The only thing that I do is I will accept products for the purpose of review. I give an honest review and I tell you what I think of it. And also, does it work? That is the main thing. Now this battery is only $35 Canadian. It is a lot cheaper than the original battery at $100. But what is the big difference between that price point? Why is there such a big difference in price? Well, I kind of have one clue, but it's not really a justifiable reason. But before we get into that, I do want to show you the testing that I did on this battery. Let's go to the downward shot and we're going to show you what I did. So this is a tester that I use for batteries. This is a battery tester. This one is actually good for 30 watts. And I'm just going to move that up a little bit more. And I'm just going to take the Pocket 3 and set it aside. So how this works is I plug it into this battery and I can actually drain it and find out how long it takes to drain. And I can also push the limits of this battery to see if it's safe. Because if it's not safe, it's going to probably catch fire, or it's going to heat up, or it's going to do all kinds of bad, nasty things that we don't want it to do. So I've connected this cable here so that I can plug it in. Because of these connectors on the side, I can't really connect it. So I've got those connectors connected like so. And now I have a blinking light. So this is my preset settings. Now I have looked at the instructions for this battery. And the instructions are okay, but they're not the greatest. So they do tell you the capacity, which is 2800 milliamp hours, and it's a little bit washed out there. And it also says it has an operating temperature between -20 and +70, and also weighs 85 grams, and we're going to check that. and it does 5 volts at 2 amps at 10 watts. And we're going to check that too to make sure that those numbers are accurate. And if they're not accurate, how far off are they? And on the back, of course, here it is Chinese because the product comes from China. It doesn't really say anything about the big issue that I'm going to be talking about later. So one thing that they should have done was put that in the instruction manual so that people are aware. But I will go back to me really quickly. So if you buy this battery on Amazon, it does read that issue further on in the description of the product. But I fear that people might buy the battery without noticing it. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, so that you're aware of that issue. There is something I do want to show you before we go into that, and that is the weight. So we're just going to talk about the weight really quick, because it did say in the instructions how much it weighed. And I'm just going to zero this out. There we go. And I'm going to go back to grams, because I believe it said 85 grams. So the original battery weighs 62 grams, and the Maectech battery weighs 80 grams. So on my scale, it's actually lighter than the what it says in the book. I think it said 80 or 81 grams, 85 grams. It said 85 grams. So it's a little bit lighter than what it stated in the manual. But my scale might not, this is not a legal scale, so it's just an approximation, so it's close. Now the other thing I want to do really quickly is a measurement, because this is the original DJI battery, and I'm just going to flip this over, and this is the Maectech. And as you can see, mine has gotten a little worn there from usage. And we're just going to go here in inches. So we've got 2.5 inches to the edge, and on the Maectech we have 3 1/4. So that is the length, and of course the width is 1 inch, so I believe the width is the same, and the thickness should also be the same. This one is at 1 inch, and this one is at 1 inch as well. The connectors are identical. There's a seating in there, and there's a seating in there. And if I push the button on the front, it operates the connectors. If you can look, you'll see them move. I'm just going to go there, and on this one here, same thing. So I've noticed that when I push the button there, it turns on the light. So when I do that with this one, you don't activate the light. So there is communication between the button and the internals. This button is not just a button, it is also connected to a circuit board. So I cannot hook up this battery to this tester, the original DJI. And I'm going to get into that, why that can't be done, because this one requires communication between this port and this device. And without that handshake, that digital handshake, it won't even turn on. So when I plug this guy in, like so, I get nothing. It doesn't turn on, it doesn't do anything. And I have tried different directions, and I don't get anything at all. Now if I hit the button, it doesn't even turn the lights on. It just tells you, because it's looking for communication between here and here. And that's going to play a key role later in the video, because that's going to make a difference. Now this one is a different story. As soon as I plug it in, it puts this in standby mode. It's sending juice right away. And also, if I activate it, then the battery reserve lights come on, and it tells you what the latest charge is. So right now we're at 3 dots. It does have 4, so 4 would be 100%. Right now we're at 75%. So I'm just going to shut that off for a second. And I'm just going to go back to me, and I want to say something else. So I'm just going to undo this. go back to me. So this battery does use high quality cells. It offers 5 levels of protection. It offers overcharging protection, over temperature protection, over load protection, over voltage, over current, and it also has over temperature protection. So I think I got them all right, but it is also in the manual. I'm going to put a picture of the temperature protections just so that I got it right in the corner, but that is the temperature protections and the different kinds of protections that it has. So I have been testing this battery, that's why it's down to 3 bars, but I just wanted to let you know that it does have high quality cells, and because of that, you can trust this battery with your Pocket 3. So if you wanted to know the short answer, can you trust it with your Pocket 3? The answer is yes, I would trust it with my Pocket 3. Let's go down to the downward shot, and I'm going to show you how I push this battery to its limits. So now I'm going to plug it in. And there we go. And now I'm going to turn it on because I'm just on standby right now. Now, I've got it at 2 amps. There's the battery. And in the instruction manual, this guy right here, it said 5 volts, 5.2 volts at 2 amps, and I'm just going to make sure I got that information right. So it says 5 volts, 2 amps, 10 watts. So that's what it says in the manual. So this is 2 amps. If I click on this, we're at 9.6 watts. That's what the P is. And 4.8 volts. So because it's under load, you are going to get a little bit of voltage drop. They call it voltage sag. I've seen that in e-bikes, things of that nature. So 4.8, pretty close to the 5 volts. And you also have to remember that this equipment might not be 100% accurate. 2 amps and 9.6 watts. Now if I increase this, and I'm just going to turn up the dial here, let's take it right to 10 watts. So right now I'm at 10 watts. If I click over here, still at 4.8, 4.7, it was kind of toggling. And we're at 2.1 amps. So now we're at over the amperage that it says in the instructions. So at 10 watts, you're going to have 2.1 amps. So maybe those numbers were an approximation. But let's crank this up more. Let's try to take this to 11 watts. That was 10. And I'm going to crank it up to, well, first we'll try 10 and a half. There's 10 and a half, 4.7, and 2.24 amps. So 2.25 amps still running. Battery's not getting warm. I'm going to get my thermal imaging camera. I'm going to show you that the battery, the hotspot on the battery is at 40 degrees Celsius, so it's not bad at all. Now let's crank it up to 11 watts. Let's really push this to its limits. I don't think we can go past 11 watts. Oh, no. No, it cuts out. I did have it up to 11 watts earlier when the battery had more of a charge. So when it's got more of a charge, you can get it up there. So let's go to 10.9. So that's 10.9. 4.5 volts, so we've got some more voltage sag, and 2.43 amps. So as the battery drains, you're going to have performance drain as well. So now, if you look on here, now I'm down to 2. So through my testing, I was draining the battery. So like I said, I have been testing this battery and putting it through its paces. Now we're at 2 bars, and that's what you get at 2 bars. So even at 2 bars, if I lower this to the, let's say I lower this to the 10 watts. So let's lower this to the 10 watts to see how well it does, because it's saying, hey, we can maintain 10 watts throughout the whole cycle. There's 10 watts. 4.7, voltage went up, 2.13 amps. So it'll still run higher amps. And there we go, 2 dots. Now, can I charge this while we're using it? Let's put it on a fast charge. So now I've plugged it in, and now it's blinking. So it's charging while I'm using it. So you can do pass-through charging. I've got it on fast charge. Now let's see if we can do with it now. So I'm going to turn this on watts. We're going to crank this back up to 10. I don't know how that changed there. There's 10. What have we got for voltage? 4.4 volts. Okay, so the voltage dropped again, probably because it's being charged and being used at the same time. 2.28 amps. I thought maybe that would improve, but I guess it's gone down. There is a circuit board in this battery, just so you know. And it is starting to get a little bit warmer, but I really want to crank this. I really want to get this to its limits. There's 11 watts, 4.3 volts, 2.56 amps. So, can I go higher? How high can I go? 12 volts, 4.2 volts, or sorry, 12 watts, 4.2 volts, and 2.86 amps. Can I go higher while it's being charged? No. So it's overloaded now. And that was the limit. So I overloaded the battery, but the battery did not explode. That's the good news. I am safe. And it's still charging. And if I turn this down, watts, 4.7, 4.8, 2.1. And that's where it's supposed to be running. So this is what you're supposed to be using for when you plug it into the Pocket 3. That's what it is. And as you can see, it went back up to 3 bars just from the charging that I did. But when you're charging it, it does lower the output a little bit, I noticed. So if I plug it in again, does it do okay? Does it still run it at what it's supposed to run it at? And the answer is yes. So once I had disconnected it and plugged it back in, we have it, it's still charging, and it's still running the Pocket 3 at 2 amps and 9.2 watts, so your wattage will drop. Your voltage will go down to 4.4, your amps will be at 210, and your wattage will drop to 9.2. So just keep that in mind if you are charging and using it, that your wattage will go down. But it's using that in the circuit board to charge the battery. So when I disconnect it, it goes back the way it was before. So then I can connect it back. Oh, hang on. There. So the overload protection will kick in. So let's hook it up to the camera because I do feel confident that it's not going to harm the camera. So that means that the overload protection in this battery grip is doing what it's supposed to do. But before I plug it in, I just want to show you that it didn't get that hot. And here is the temperature reading, and it went up to 38.5. Okay, so 38.5. Let's plug it into here. And you do have to make sure that you push it in all the way. Make sure that both of these have clicked because it is a little tighter than the original one. Now maybe mine has gotten loose over the years, but this one feels pretty good. Now, and the one thing that's always concerned me about these type of battery grips is if you go side to side, are you going to lose that connection? Some people have had them come disconnected. So if one of these isn't fully connected and it gets shaken, you could end up losing your camera. It could fall right out. So you want to make sure both of these hooks are securely fastened. And we're back up to 3 bars because I had it charging. So it does offer fast charging. When I plugged the fast charger into it, it had no problem accepting that fast charger. So that part of their claim is true. Now we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. What is that difference that I was telling you about in the beginning of the video? So when I connect this battery to the Pocket 3, I have my battery reading here. I don't have one on this guy right here. But if I turn on the Pocket 3, you'll notice I have a battery indicator up here. And it says that I'm at 100%. Now this is just for this part of the Osmo. Now if I click on this with my finger, it tells me nothing. It only tells me what my battery is on here. So I'm going to disconnect this battery and I'm going to put on the original. So this is the $100 battery you get from DJI. Now I've connected it. Now it does give me the battery handle, and it says the battery handle is at 90%. If I click on here, now it tells me a further display of what my battery readings are, 100%, 89%. So that's information you don't get with the third-party battery. But do you need it? Because you have the 4 dots. So at a glance, this is better. But if you want more information, then you need to go into the screen on this one. So, is that the elephant in the room? And the answer is no, that is not the elephant in the room. Let's go back to me. So what is the elephant in the room? Well, the elephant in the room is this. If I hook up an external microphone system to the Osmo Pocket 3 through the original battery, it will work. If I connect it to a computer and use it as a webcam through the back port, it will work. It will not work with the Maectech battery. This is not a communication battery. In other words, it does not have that digital handshake where it can communicate and it can also translate that digital and audio information through that port so that your camera will have that pass-through connection. But there is a workaround. If you want to, and you still want to have a connection, and you just want to use your Pocket 3 this way without any battery at all, you can get one of these. And you can connect it to your Pocket 3 just like so. And then I've hooked this up through external microphones, and I've also hooked it up through my video switcher, and this works just fine. Now when I bought my Pocket 3, I got the Creator Combo, which came with this battery. So if I needed to hook up an external microphone and I also want to have an extended battery, then I can use this. But if I have to do a lot of long filming and I want to use the Bluetooth, the Osmo Audio that's connected directly to the camera, then I can still use this. It doesn't bother me. So it's not going to be a deal breaker for most people, but it is important information to have. So if you own a Pocket 3 and you want to have a good safe battery to use and you don't want your camera to get broken in the process, or you don't want to have a battery fire or anything like that, I would recommend the Maectech battery. Also, if you're using high quality cells, you're going to have more charge and discharge cycles. It also has fast charging. You can charge this guy in 1 hour. So it offers the same fast charging that you get with the original. Now, I also find if you look closely, it even has the same type of grip on the back as the original as well. So quality-wise, it's really good. I only noticed one little difference with the button, but that's because this button is not your ordinary button. It's connected to a circuit board so that it does the communication, because every time I push it, that little green light comes on. But unfortunately, that little green light doesn't tell you a whole lot of information, and that's what frustrates a lot of people. These 4 little dots are a lot more effective, in my opinion, especially if you want to read your camera at a glance, or you want to read it at nighttime, and you just want to know if you got 50% battery left or 25%, and you want to know what's in here. I would like to thank Maectech for sending out this battery for the purpose of review. I don't think that it's going to cause any problems with my Pocket 3. I will be doing long-term testing with it. I'm going to be using it in the field, so if I have any issues, I will certainly let you know. But right off the start, I've run it through all of its paces to make sure that I felt that it was safe for my camera and it seems to offer all of the overload protection and discharge protection that it's supposed to have. So all of the claims that they put in their disclaimer seem to be true. And that's all I can really say about that. So the one piece of advice that I would give Maectech is please put that disclosure a little bit bigger as far as not being able to connect microphones directly to the back. And that's also going to help your company from getting unnecessary returns from people and possibly unnecessary frustrated buyers. So if a buyer knows exactly what they're getting into, then I think that it's going to find the right buyer for the right product. And that's part of my job as a reviewer, to make sure that people have all the correct information so that when they buy something like this, they know exactly what they're getting. They do disclose that on the Amazon, but you do have to kind of look for it in the product description. And I think that should be more prevalent. So what would I like to see on Maectech's next generation battery? Well, on their next generation battery, instead of having the 4 dots, I would like to see a digital readout of what the display is. So when I hooked up the original battery and I clicked on the display, it told me the exact percentage. It said it was at 90 or 89 or 87. So on your next generation battery, put a readout display instead of the 4 dots. I know that it may be a little more distracting for some people, but I do think that you could put a button on the side so you can toggle that on and off. But I personally would like to have a digital readout, not a scale or anything like that. I like to see numbers on my batteries. So if it's at 69%, I want to know that it's at 69%. I also would like to say one last thing about it, because when I put this battery grip on my DJI Osmo Pocket 3, this is the extension I get with my giant hands, because I have big hands. Now, when I use the Maectech battery, it's a little bit bigger because, as I showed you in the measurements, it is 3 1/4, and I kind of like this a little better. It gives me a little bit better feel and a better grip. So when you're looking at third-party batteries, consider that as well. But first and foremost, make sure they're using high-quality cells and they offer that 5 levels of protection so that your camera doesn't get damaged. Because if your camera gets damaged by third-party batteries, the manufacturer does not have to honor any warranty because of the way you damage the camera. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank Maectech for sending out this battery for the purpose of review. It seems to be a very good battery. I have no issues with it, and I have no problem recommending it. I'll put a link in the description, so if you want to buy this battery, again, I get no commission on it, so I'm just putting it there because I think it's a decent battery. So on that note, take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video.